descends through your chest until it meets a ceiling that shouldn't be there. The breath hits that point, locks, and returns without reaching the depths of the body. It's not lack of breath. It's an internal, silent refusal installed between the sternum and the diaphragm, as if something inside you was saying no to your own regeneration. You've already meditated, breathed consciously, done somatic therapy, released knots throughout your entire body, and even so, the relief lasts minutes, maybe hours, before the weight returns. Always to the same region, blocking the passage to something you feel should happen, but never does. There is a 13th knot, a matrix knot that no one has named until now, located at the exact intersection between the transverse fascia, the anterior vagus nerve, and the upper solar plexus, where the body decides whether it accepts or forbids the state of healing. While it remains compressed, you can release tensions, do practices, rest as much as you want, and nothing truly stabilizes, because this point is the hidden regulator that controls all the others. Neuroscience has just revealed this crossing as the decisive point that blocks deep regeneration, confirming what Hermetic traditions described as the silent portal between perpetual survival and real restoration. In this video, you're going to understand how it installs itself, why it keeps your body from fully healing, and what to do to untie it once and for all. Further on, you're going to discover the exact point where this knot is locked in your own body and how to release it while you listen to me. This point works like a ring of autonomic decision. There, the diaphragm should descend freely with each inhale. The fascia should glide without resistance, and the vagus nerve should signal to the brain that it is safe to enter deep repair. But when this ring compresses, it creates an invisible horizontal barrier that keeps the body in a state that is never fully alert nor fully at rest. It is a physiological limbo that keeps you functional but never restored. Hermetic texts called this point the intermediate altar, the passage between the heart and the fire of the plexus. In Egyptian mystery schools, it was associated with the portal of Marat, where the being internally evaluates whether it is ready to open or still needs to defend itself. They had no MRIs or fascia studies, but they intuited with surgical precision that they're in that silent intersection. A somatic choice was happening all the time, to perpetuate internal vigilance or to allow restoration to enter. When this knot is active, the transverse fascia hardens like a protective plate, the diaphragm rises and locks in an alert position, and the solar plexus emits diffuse threat signals that travel up to the brain. The vagus nerve, unable to complete the transition to the branch that governs cellular regeneration, keeps the body in a low-intensity tension that you don't consciously notice, but that drains energy for years. It's not acute stress. It's a chronic, subtle refusal, installed so deeply that it seems to be part of who you are. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory revealed something essential. Getting out of collapse or fight is not enough to activate healing. The body needs to recognize safety so deeply that the nervous system authorizes a complete opening. And this only happens when the vagus nerve signals that the threat has truly ended. The 13th knot blocks exactly this signaling. It maintains an imperceptible contraction that acts like a biological brake, telling the body that it still isn't safe to relax completely. That's why your practices bring relief but don't hold. That's why the tension always returns to the same place. There's a story that illuminates exactly how this blockage operates when no one names it. A teacher in the Canadian countryside carried this refusal in her own body for years. Feeling the substernal weight you recognize, the breath that hits the invisible ceiling, the sensation that something essential was stuck. What she discovered when she finally touched the point where the 13th knot was compressed will show how this barrier manifests in real life. Diane is 46 years old and teaches literature at a public school in the Canadian countryside. She wakes up at 6 in the morning, makes coffee, corrects tests before leaving, spends the whole day standing, mediating teenagers, and comes back home with a sensation she can't name. A weight just below the sternum that isn't pain, but constant presence, as if something inside her chest was squeezed too tight. Even on weekends, when she should be resting, the weight is still there, motionless, refusing to give way. Her breath hits an invisible ceiling just below her ribs, no matter how many times she tries to inhale deeply. Blood tests, electrocardiogram, abdominal ultrasound, all normal. The doctors say it's anxiety, prescribe breathing exercises, suggest she relax more. Diane sleeps 8 hours and wakes up tired, as if her body had spent the whole night on alert. She feels that something is preventing regeneration from happening, but she doesn't know where or why. Diane started doing yoga 3 times a week. She practiced guided meditation every morning. She went to myofascial release sessions with an experienced therapist who worked on shoulders, neck, diaphragm. Each practice brought relief for a few hours, sometimes even a whole day, but the weight always returned to the same place, as if the body refused to accept the healing those techniques offered. She noticed that the problem wasn't in the superficial muscles, but in a blockage that decided, before any technique could work, whether she had permission to heal or not. In a somatic therapy session, the therapist placed 2 fingers just below her sternum, applied firm pressure toward the spine, and asked her to breathe. Diane felt something she had never felt before. It wasn't just tension releasing, but an active resistance, as if something inside her wanted to open, but was afraid that opening would mean falling apart. The sensation lasted seconds before she contracted again, instinctively closing the point that had begun to yield. What happened next she only understood when she discovered that that point was the matrix, not the hidden regulator that kept her body from accepting the state of healing. But before you know what Diane found, you're going to feel the same point in your own body. You're going to locate where the 13th knot is locked in you, preventing regeneration from completing. And you're going to understand why it silently decides whether you heal or remain in this limbo between relief and relapse. Lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet resting on the floor, or sit with your spine upright but without rigidity. Place your right hand flat at the base of the sternum, just above the point where the ribs separate. Breathe naturally, without forcing depth, and observe whether the air descends all the way to your hand or whether it hits earlier, as if there were an invisible ceiling blocking the passage. Don't try to fix it, just notice. This ceiling is the point Diane felt for the first time when the therapist touched her body. Stay there for 5 full breathing cycles, allowing the body to recognize the blockage without judging it. If there is heat rising in the region, light tingling, or a sudden urge to sigh, These are signs that the nervous system is beginning to identify where the refusal is installed. With 2 or 3 fingers of your right hand, locate the point where the sternum ends, just above the abdomen. Go down about 2 finger widths toward the navel. There, exactly where you feel a slight depression or a point more sensitive to touch. Apply firm, non-painful pressure toward the spine, as if you were drawing a horizontal axis through the body. Keep the pressure steady as you breathe. Inhale normally. On the exhale, prolong the air going out, letting the breath descend deeper than before, while the pressure of your fingers remains constant. Repeat for 10 breathing cycles. During this process, you may feel the tissue under your fingers gradually softening, as if the inner fascia were beginning to give way. You may feel heat spreading through the central region of the chest. You may feel a light, rhythmic pulse, indicating that the vagus nerve is responding to the touch, interpreting it as a sign that it is now safe to release. If the pressure feels excessive, ease it slightly, but maintain contact. If it feels insufficient, go a little deeper, always respecting the threshold between firmness and discomfort. What is happening here is not muscular massage. It is a dialogue with the vagus nerve through fascial receptors, informing the body that the threat it believed it was facing has ended. With each prolonged exhale, the diaphragm learns to descend beyond the point where it normally locks. Now notice if there are subtle changes, the breath reaching regions that were previously off limits, a sensation of inner space opening between the chest and the abdomen, or a softening at the base of the throat that you didn't know was contracted. These signs indicate that the matrix knot has begun to yield. Don't force anything. Let the body respond in its own time, recognizing for the first time in years that it can, in fact, accept healing. Before we continue, there is something that happened with Diane when this point finally yielded under the pressure of the therapist's fingers. What she discovered in that moment will illuminate what is happening in your body now. When the therapist applied pressure to that specific point and asked Diane to breathe, she felt something she had never felt before. It wasn't just tension releasing. It was an old no revealing itself, installed in response to years of teaching, mediating conflicts, keeping order in the classroom, coming home and still needing to be functional, available, present. She had never allowed her body to truly rest, because resting meant stopping her vigilance, and stopping her vigilance felt far too dangerous. When the point began to yield under the pressure, a deep crying came, not of sadness, but of relief, as if the body had finally received permission to stop. Diane realized that she had spent decades keeping that point compressed in order to stay functional, and that the refusal was not her failure, but an old survival strategy that was now preventing regeneration from happening. In the following weeks, she noticed that her breath descended naturally into her abdomen without conscious effort. She woke up without the usual weight in her chest. She could sit in silence without diffuse anxiety rising. What Diane felt is exactly what is beginning to happen in your body now. The matrix knot is yielding. The internal refusal is softening. The healing that previously hit an invisible ceiling is finally becoming possible, not as a distant promise, but as a concrete experience happening as you breathe. Conscious touch has softened the outer layer of the blockage, but there is a deeper layer that responds to vibration. Keep your fingers on the same point, or simply rest your hand over it. produce a low, sustained sound. An elongated or orm at the lowest frequency you can comfortably emit without strain in the throat. The sound doesn't need to be loud. What matters is the inner vibration it creates. As you make the sound, mentally direct this vibration to the point under your fingers, as if the sound were traveling through the tissue and loosening the fascial fibers that manual touch cannot reach. Do 3 to 5 repetitions with pauses between them to observe what changes. During this process, you may feel heat increasing in the central region of the body, a sudden urge to yawn or sigh, a sign that the vagus nerve is readjusting the autonomic rhythm, or a slight tremor in the torso, as if something that was frozen were beginning to move again. Some people feel a sensation of an internal click, as if something that was stuck finally slipped into place. Others feel emotion rising for no apparent reason, a cry asking to come through, or simply a deep exhale of relief. All of these are signs that the body is completing a defensive cycle that was frozen for years, allowing regeneration to enter where previously there was only vigilance. These 3 layers, somatic perception, conscious touch, and vocal vibration, work together to untie the matrix knot that kept your body from accepting healing. The central practice is complete. What comes now is to seal this transformation in the body, creating an anchor you can use whenever the blockage threatens to return. Now notice what has changed in your body. The breath descends naturally into the abdomen without conscious effort. The rigid ceiling that previously blocked the passage of air is no longer there, or is significantly softer. There is a lightness in the central region of the torso, as if a weight you carried for years had finally dissipated. These are the physical markers that the matrix knot has yielded, and the body has begun to accept the state of healing it previously refused. To anchor this transformation, you're going to create a simple signal gesture that you can repeat at any moment. Place 2 fingers lightly at the base of the sternum. Exhale once in a long, conscious way, and internally repeat, "My body accepts healing." This gesture takes 30 seconds. It can be done discreetly in any context, sitting in traffic, before sleeping, or in the middle of a meeting. It doesn't redo the entire practice, but it reactivates the somatic memory of the loosened knot. When you feel the substernal weight returning, or the breath once again hitting an invisible ceiling, stop wherever you are. Place your fingers on the point, breathe 3 long cycles with prolonged exhale, and repeat internally, "The 13th knot is loose. My body allows regeneration." This protocol turns what you experienced now into a long-term tool. It's not just a one-time experience. It's a code that the body has learned to recognize, and that can be reactivated whenever necessary. The release of the matrix knot does not end a process. It initiates a completely new relationship with your own body, where healing stops being something you chase and becomes something you allow. And that changes everything. What you now carry in the body is not just the absence of a blockage. It is the capacity to accept healing and not just pursue it. This changes how the body responds to the practices you already do, how tensions are processed before they install themselves, how rest becomes sustainable instead of temporary. The matrix knot was silently deciding what you could or could not access. Now that it has yielded, the body reorganizes its relationship with regeneration. and this reorganization spreads through everything. The 13th knot is one of the hidden somatic portals that decide whether life flows or stagnates. There are other passages in the body where old memories still govern present responses. Other crossings between nerve, fascia, and autonomic decision that neuroscience is only beginning to name. What you experienced here is an entry door into territories that few cross consciously. There are more layers, more rituals, more discoveries waiting. Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." The 13th knot was the silent wound where the light of healing could not enter, not because you were impermeable, but because the door was locked from the inside. Now it is open. The light no longer needs to force its way in. It enters naturally because the body finally allows it. The body is not an obstacle to divine grace. It is the living altar where it materializes. When the matrix knot opens, the body stops being a defensive fortress and becomes a habitable temple again. A place where the presence of God finds a space prepared to settle. Healing is not something you achieve. It is something you accept when the body finally recognizes that it is safe to receive. If this revelation resonated with you, leave a like so that more people can discover the point that decides whether the body accepts or blocks regeneration. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to access somatic practices that most will never find. Share this video with someone you know who carries this substernal weight, who meditates and breathes, but feels that something essential remains stuck. Become a member of the channel to support the production of content that transforms somatic awareness into concrete action, reaching more bodies that need this information. In the comments, leave this written: "I untie the 13th knot and my body now accepts the state of healing." This sentence marks that you recognized the blockage and chose to release it. Click on the screen and watch one more transformative video from the channel where there is knowledge that few access. The matrix knot is loose. The refusal has yielded. For the first time in years, the body not only tries to heal, it accepts.